Welcome, good to be back with everybody. Excited about my third season. Different year certainly than maybe the last couple. We have a very young group, really 11, 12 freshmen and sophomores, and only 2 upperclassmen. But I do think our younger guys are very eager and excited and have a lot of enthusiasm for the year. And I'm really hopeful and optimistic that our older guys are going to have big seasons. Milton and Devin have certainly, I think, paid their dues, kind of bided their time a little bit as in going through the program at different levels, and it's now their turn to have the opportunity to be the primary focus of the team, and I think they've prepared well for it, and I'm excited to see them do well and have good senior seasons.
Seems like this time last year we're talking about you just graduated 2 really good players.
Yeah.
Where are you going to find a score? It's kind of the same story again this year.
Yeah, it's not something you kind of wish. You always wish you have a couple returning scorers back that are, I think that's the thing that we all worry about is scoring the basketball. Certainly it's been kind of the case in my tenure here that every year we're starting over a little bit with scoring, and it's not going to be any different this year. It's a little different in nature in that, my first year we had a perimeter player and a post player, and we had really good balance, and Jure emerged into that situation. Last year we had Andre and probably Tanner were our 2 most experienced and comfortable, confident players, and now this year it's 2 post players. But again, as I mentioned, I think Devin and Book have really had to wait their turn at times. They've gone through the full gamut of not starting to, being reserves, to finally getting to start, to being productive players. They've had some really good games at times. Maybe haven't been quite as consistent as we would all like, but I feel good about where they are, and I know they've had really good summers and a good start to the fall, and I know how excited they are about their senior season. I really hope it goes well for them.
Who takes over in the backcourt?
Well, I think it'll be a little bit by committee in terms of the point guard spot. I think really all 3 guys, Rod Hall and Adonis Fowler and Jordan Roper, there'll be great competition at that position. And to be honest with you, probably all 3 will play at times. Just in the short time that we've all been together so far, I don't know that any one of them has emerged as a guy who's head and shoulders above the others. I think they all bring different things. Rod certainly understands what we're trying to do and has a little more college experience, certainly has a college-ready body. Adonis is physically ready to play and a very good on-ball defender. I think Jordan maybe is better than the other 2 a little bit at making baskets. I think he's a guy that's a little bit clever, and he's wispy though. He's really thin and slight, and he's done a good job of working hard to put on about 7 or 8 pounds since he got here, but he does find ways to make some baskets at times. And but he'll have a ways to go in terms of learning exactly how we want to play and getting comfortable with how we play. That won't be as easy for him or Adonis really. So they all kind of bring different strengths. I think we'll kind of use all 3 of them at different times, and then if one emerges a little bit more than the others, maybe he'll play a little more. Beyond that, I think it's TJ and KJ right now, as you would expect, are the guys at the other backcourt positions. Both guys got some good experience as freshmen. TJ started out very well and really understood what we were trying to do much faster than the other freshmen early on, and shot the ball pretty well early on. Probably wore down as the year wore on, and didn't play quite as well at the end. I think KJ, on the other hand, was just the opposite. I think he took a while to really try to figure some things out and understand exactly what we were trying to do in terms of basketball-wise. But, as I say, from when we recruited him physically, he's going to be as talented as anybody will recruit, because he's athletically very gifted. He's 6'5", he's long, he's bouncy. He can make some plays that you just can't coach. But what he's got to get better at is he's got to understand how to be a complete player. He's got to understand how to make the traditional simple plays. His shot's got to get better. And his defense has to get better. But I feel like he's made very good strides this summer. I think he's really applied himself and has been more focused. And so those 2 guys, I think, are a little bit further along than maybe the others.
With TJ, is there anything you guys did in the offseason in terms of
adjusting his shot, adjusting his game to give him more consistency that maybe he lacked in that ACC season last year?
A little bit with his shot, just tweaked a few things with his footwork and really just try to get him to be a little more consistent in one or two things. I think a lot of it was just being fatigued, and he wasn't an overly strong kid when he was here. He was 180 pounds maybe. He's up to 190, and so I just think the added strength will help. I also think, he wasn't very good last year at finishing plays in the paint around the rim, and we're hoping that the added strength will allow him to now be able to get into the paint area and make some more plays, finish layups against contact. And then hopefully some of the experiences that he gained as a freshman will make him a little more relaxed at times. I think those are the things that he needs to be. He needs to be relaxed, needs to knock down open shots. And the one thing he does provide, though, is he's a very positive kid. He's very enthusiastic. He has a great hunger and passion for basketball. And when he comes to practice every day, he shows that. And so those are kinds of kids you enjoy coaching because of that.
Do you see Harrison fitting in more at the 3 spot?
I don't worry too much about 2s and 3s and all that. I think he's got a body that can guard 3s. He's pretty strong. He's long. He's got real long arms. I think he's about 6'4", but because of his arms, he can play a little bigger than that. Physically, he's put together in terms of nice strength. He's got to get in better shape right now to kind of get back some of his explosiveness. From not doing much this summer. I think that will happen. But DeMarcus has a nice feel about him. I mean, I think he doesn't play too fast too often. He doesn't get himself so out of control that he makes a lot of bad decisions. He generally is under control, kind of is just a complete player. It's one of the things I liked about him out of high school is he can make a shot, he can drive it, he can pass it, he can dribble it. He does everything pretty well. I don't know that he does anything great right now, but he does everything pretty well. He's got a skill set and an understanding that maybe for a younger player, a lot of guys wouldn't have.
Brad, is this the kind of team that offensively will probably need to be more of a half-court team than an up?
I don't know about that, just from the standpoint of I think there are going to be times we're going to try to push the ball and move and try to get down the floor because I think we're going to have to try to get some shots in transition to beat teams down. I don't know that we can, I think the best teams certainly can play fast and play slow. And that's when you're really good, is you can beat teams in the high 80s, you can beat teams in 50s. That's when you're at your best. I don't know if we have the ability to score in the 80s all the time or anything like that. I don't think that'll be our calling card, but I also don't think we just want to walk it down. I think we need to play with some pace. I think we need to run some guys in and out, play some numbers, especially early in the season. And I think we've got to take some open shots early when we get them because I don't know if we have a ton of creators in the half court. And we're going to have to use our post play as a way to hopefully draw multiple people and gain some advantages.
Milton said that one thing he said to work on a lot is his attitude and body language when it comes to trying to be a leader.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, I hope so. Again, I think Milt is a really talented guy who throughout his career has lacked confidence. And his confidence is come and gone. You've seen it in flashes. And part of that confidence not being there is not being comfortable. And early on in his career, I don't think he was very comfortable. I think some of the high expectations and, maybe taken in and out and not playing a whole lot as a freshman and it sapped some of his confidence and he got uncomfortable. I think a big part of what I've tried to do is to make him more comfortable out there and make him feel like, hey, we believe in you. We know that, we want you shooting these shots because he is an outstanding shooter. And I think that's coming. I think when that happens, then he's going to display even better body language and better leadership skills because he's in a better place. It's not easy to be a really good leader when you're not in a good place. And, guys aren't going to listen to guys that aren't consistent in their message and consistent in their behavior and consistent in their performance. And so that's been the challenge for both Book and Milt, is to be consistent in your work ethic every day, consistent in your attitude, consistent in your performance. And those guys at times have been really good in all those areas, and at other times they've they've struggled a little bit. And the thing I've talked to Milt a lot is he's a very emotional guy, wears his emotion on his sleeve, and that's not going to change completely. That's okay, but he's got to be able to get through some bad plays or bad times and not have it become negative and then seep through our team, because the younger guys are going to be looking at him. I think he understands that, and hopefully we'll see a little bit better body language and confidence out of him this year.
Devin.
Being a good on-ball defender from the hall, do you see maybe better full court defense by the point guard position?
I hope so. Yeah. That was a weakness of ours last year. My first year, I thought our on-ball defense with DeMontes and Xavier Anderson, really, and then Andre was kind of third in the pecking order and did it a little bit. We didn't use him as much in that regard because he wasn't as good. Really was problematic for some teams, and we caused some problems. Last year with Andre trying to do it and some of our freshmen, it just wasn't as good. And some of it was lack of experience. Some of it's just Andre's lack of size. It's not as, Jordan Roper won't be as good at it as Rod or Adonis. But I do think the three of them together, you can exert a little more pressure. You can use maximum energy. You're not as worried about saving one of those guys for their offense. Sometimes as a coach, like last year with Andre, it was hard for me to really get Andre to be this pesky full court defender, because I knew that we needed him on offense to score. And to ask him to do all of that would be too much. And so at times we suffered defensively because of it. Andre was a good, solid defender. He did some good things, but applying tremendous ball pressure wasn't his strength. I think some of the other guys will be able to do a little bit better of that, and using a three-headed monster will help us.
Given where Jerron is physically, after he gets to 100%, he'll be behind. Is it safe to assume he'll sit this entire season?
I don't know yet. We're still evaluating that really week to week. He's made good progress here recently, but he's still, I'm not good with all those percentages. I'm guessing 60%, something along those lines, 65% of what he can be. He's starting to jump around a little bit, and he's running a little bit, and he's starting to do a little bit of individual stuff. But there certainly are times he can't move as well as he needs to move. He doesn't have the kind of strength, endurance. How far he falls behind will be an issue. I'd hate to burn a year on him, but at the same time, you've also got to look at if he's catching up. He's a very competitive guy. His competitiveness is something our team will need, because he is a guy that likes to fight and compete and scratch, and he's tried to do that in his rehab. And if you'd have asked me a couple of months ago, I would have definitely thought for sure he's a redshirt. I wouldn't have told you guys, but I would have thought that he wasn't going to make it. I think he's made a lot of progress since then, but I still think it's tough. There's still a long way to go with it, and now we've got to manage how fast is his rehab coming, how much does he understand what we're trying to do, and how quickly does it come about in terms of his understanding of all that's come along. Because it is, the one thing is, we are simplifying things with our team because we are so young. We can't be as intricate as I like to be in certain situations, especially probably on both ends of the court. We've just got to start with basic basketball and try to get good at it so that the guys aren't thinking so much that they can't play. I want them to be able to play hard. I want them to be able to understand what we're trying to do. So we are trying to simplify some things, and as the year goes on, we'll add more to it to try to give us a little more than a vanilla package. But early on, we got to be a little more vanilla.
Brad, any anxiousness or curiosity on your part, because being so young, these are your guys. Not that they weren't your guys from the moment you took over the program, but these are your recruits.
I don't like that. I've never liked that. I told you guys that my first year. I think that's all. I think it's a lot of media. I think that's you guys these are the guys you recruited. So I don't. Either way, coaches can't win. The guys you recruit aren't good enough. The guys you got, the guy recruited them for you. You still got to. They're your players. You coach them. That's like thinking that I care less about Tanner Smith or Andre or Brian or DeMontez or Jure even now, because I only coached them a year or two. That's the furthest thing from the truth. And you know, it's funny, I had people last year that were criticizing me, people you wouldn't expect, not that I'm not playing the guys that I recruited more. That makes no sense to me, that I'm gonna just, because I recruited them, I'm gonna play them more than the guys that are here. I mean, you know, that bothers me and rubs me in the wrong way, because I think when you take over a job, those are your players, and you coach them the best you can, you treat them the right way, and everybody you recruit after, that's fine too, but they're no more special, they're no better, they're no worse, everybody's the same, and we just kind of see what we can do with what we got. And I'm anxious from the standpoint of having, you know, seeing what so many new guys look like. That's definitely fair to say, because when you have 11 or 12 freshmen or sophomores, you basically have a bunch of new guys that you don't know what they're going to be like, and the competition in practice is going to be good. You know, hey, I'd much rather have, you know, 4 seniors and 3 juniors, and we know who's in what, and the freshmen are coming in and they're playing 6 minutes if they're lucky. I think that's when things are good. This isn't an ideal third year from that standpoint, but having said that, there's a lot of excitement about it too. I'm really excited to see what the young guys are going to do, and the sophomores, how much they've grown, how much they've improved. And I'm also happy and looking forward to watching Milton Devin, 2 guys that, again, you know, these are 2 kids that have worked their way through the 4-year process, and you've watched them go from not playing much to, you know, getting some time, and, you know, late in games when it didn't matter, to games when it did matter, to starting, to, you know, to now having the chance to be the main guys. And I think that's always good stories and things that are fun to watch and see their development. So there's a lot of optimism, there's a lot of excitement on my part to see what we have and how guys respond.
You see this team kind of taking the same track your first 2 did, where it's a lot better in February than it is in November with all these young guys? And
Well,
guys
I
trying
hope
to find their
so. I
place?
hope most of my teams are that way, because, you know, that means we've been working with them for 6 months or 5 months or whatever it is, and hopefully we are getting better. We're not going the other way. I do think that, you know, like last year, I was disappointed with how our team played early in the year. I would have thought we would have played better, but I was really proud of how the team rallied and kind of didn't hang their heads when some things weren't going well, and nobody was really a star or a guy who was a consistent player. I don't mean that to sound like they weren't consistent players, but they weren't, you know, an all-conference guy, and yet these guys rallied and believed, and we finished 8-8 in the ACC and really played really well January and February. And I was disappointed about our November, December, some of our games and the way we played then. You know, I'm worried about that this year. We have a very difficult schedule. We got a lot of guys that are inexperienced. I'm still trying to figure out what everybody does well and how to put them into positions to make them successful. And we certainly better be playing better in January and February than we are in November and December. It's going to be a long January and February. But I do think our teams have done that over the years, and I don't see any reason why this team won't, you know, get better through the course of the season as well.
Where's Bernard after, you know,
He's much better. You know, he really struggled last year with the asthma, as we've talked about, and just physically was behind so far that it became difficult for a while to catch up. I do think he in January and February, he helped us more in practice areas and things than people realize. I'm looking for Bernard to be a very productive player for us this year. I think he's certainly, you know, is going to be behind Milton in a post position, but I think his strength is better, his conditioning, his miles better. He's a powerful driver of the basketball. I think his ball skills are pretty good. I think his shooting is improving. It's going to be a little bit new for him, though. This is almost like in some ways it'll be like his real rookie year. He played a few minutes last year, 6 or 7 minutes, and got some minutes in time and in a few games where it mattered, but this will be the first time that he's really kind of under the gun. And I'm excited to see how he does. I know he's really excited about playing this year because he feels like, you know, he's put in a lot of time and effort to get himself ready.
Brad, have you known Frank Martin before he took the South Carolina job?
Yeah, not a lot, but certainly knew of him and had met him on a couple of occasions. And once at a Nike trip, and talked a little bit there when he was still coaching at Kansas State. Saw his team last year at the Diamond Head. I think he did a terrific job out there at Kansas State, and I'm sure he'll do well where he is now.
Does he change the recruiting landscape at all? In
Not
the
really.
state, or because everybody's on, top players, it doesn't really matter?
Not really. I don't think so. I mean, it's we're both going to recruit our state hard and try to get the best guys that we think fit our system and our style. And I was really happy to get Jordan Roper, and feel like we're going to continue to be able to be successful recruiting our state. We'll start there all the time and then work our way out to the surrounding states, and I'm sure he's going to do the same.